This video is brought to you by Incogni. As we get closer and closer to a potential general election, you'd expect the government to start fighting as if it's 20 points behind. Because, well, it is. However, instead of pulling together and taking the fight to Labour, they're instead far more focused on fighting each other. This has become even more apparent in the last week, thanks to the Lee Anderson row. So in this video, we're going to have a look into the Lee Anderson scandal, what it shows about the Conservative Party, and ultimately whether it demonstrates that the Conservative Party are on course to tear themselves apart. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. Now, it's worth starting this video by explaining exactly what the Lee Anderson scandal is all about. Lee Anderson is a former deputy chairman of the Conservative Party and is known for being on the right of the party, despite actually being a former Labour councillor. While he's been in the press before for his controversial remarks and views, he'd been able to keep these within the lines and had avoided being suspended. Last week, though, it seems that he crossed the line with comments he made in reference to an article that Suella Braverman wrote entitled "Islamists are in charge of Britain now."
And I heard the comments earlier you was making about Suella, some of the comments she made earlier this week. And I don't actually believe that these Islamists have got control of our country. But what I do believe is they've got control of Caen, and they've got control of London, and they've got control of Storm as well.
Now, Anderson's comments caused significant backlash, with Labour Party chairwoman Annalise Dodds describing the remarks as unambiguously racist and Islamophobic. This is something the London Mayor himself actually agreed with.
Comments from a senior Conservative are Islamophobic, are anti-Muslim and are racist.
It seems, though, that the Conservative leadership also agreed with some elements of this criticism, as only a day after Anderson made the comments, he had the Conservative parliamentary whip suspended, meaning that Anderson now sits as an independent MP. Sunak himself, though, was very deliberate in how he explained the decision to suspend the whip from Anderson, with him failing to call the comments Islamophobic.
Well, I think the most important thing is that the words were wrong. They were ill-judged, they were unacceptable, and that's what I believe, and that's why the whip has been suspended.
Now, Sunak's decision not to call the comments Islamophobic reflects his tricky position as the leader of a deeply divided party, part of which supports Anderson and part of which wants him gone. Following his suspension, a number of Tory MPs exchanged messages in a WhatsApp group with claims that they were getting a huge number of messages of support for Anderson from their constituents. This includes Peter Gibson, who said, "Inbox very positive for Lee." He added that Lee had been a huge asset to our party. Richard Holden replied in the chat saying, "I'm sure you'll all appreciate that the last thing I wanted to see was one of ours lose the whip." In fact, Jill Mortimer went further, saying that Lee Anderson's suspension is the final nail in the party's coffin. This contrasts sharply with Tory MPs such as Nusgani, who claimed that Anderson's comments were foolish and dangerous, and described the situation as tiring. Sajid Javid, who simply said that it was a ridiculous thing to say, and Raymond Chisti, who actually made a wider point, claiming that Rishi Sunak doesn't want to engage with the Muslim community because he doesn't need that for his political purposes. The point is that the Conservative Party is divided by this issue, an issue that's already hugely inflamed as it's about a form of prejudice, Islamophobia, and because it's linked to an ongoing conflict, the Israel-Gaza war. But unfortunately, it's also being used, as many culture war topics are, as a proxy in the battle for the heart of the Conservative Party. There are those more towards the centre of the party who criticise Anderson for his inflammatory remarks and are frustrated that Sunak has not gone as far as describing his comments as Islamophobic. And there are those on the right, some of whom may be uncomfortable with how Anderson said what he said, but who share his overall belief. Some of these back Anderson and believe that he should not have the whip withdrawn. This puts members of the government in increasingly difficult positions, as they need to try and hold the ship together. Take Oliver Dowden's comments on Laura Kuenssberg's show, for example.
But I don't believe that what Suella has said crosses the line in the way that Lee Anderson's
But why not?
do.
Because she said the Islamists are in charge. Now, you said you don't believe that's true. Lee Anderson said the Islamists are in control of Sadiq Khan. Why is it different?
Well, I think there's a slight danger of getting into semantics of this, but I think this is...
But words matter. You've said that yourself.
Please allow me to finish my point. This is about attaching specifically to one person, the Mayor of London. I think what Suella was saying was making a broader statement, one which I don't agree with the specifics of what she said, but I do very much agree with the concerns that she is raising about threats coming often from Islamic extremists.
Now, the fact that Dowden tried to criticise both of them while also trying to make clear that he's concerned about, quote, threats coming from Islamic extremists demonstrates just how awkward an issue this has become for the Conservatives and how factionalised the party has become. He was trying to walk the line between criticising Anderson and Braverman enough, but not too much, out of fear of upsetting either faction, or indeed the wider electorate. And, well, this issue with Anderson and Braverman isn't even the first time that the Tory leadership have had to walk such a line, even in the last few months. Sunak's Rwanda plan has also been attached to the culture war, with the centre of the party concerned that it skirts too close to breaking international law, and the right of the party believing that it doesn't go far enough. In this situation too, Sunak had to walk a fine line between these two positions. This led to a situation in the second reading of the Safety of Rwanda bill, where he faced rebellion from both the centrist faction of his party and the right-wing faction of his party. Now, both of these factionalised issues serve to demonstrate that the Conservative Party is effectively two separate parties right now. There are those, such as Baroness Varsi, who decry what the Tories have become.
I'm really disturbed by where the Conservative Party has gone. I joined a party many decades ago now, which became an inclusive One Nation party. The Conservative Party, led by David Cameron, changed the face of the party, changed the faces within the party. It came to terms with its historic homophobia and its historic racism and wanted to be a party for today. And what I see tragically is a new generation of Conservatives dragging this great party, which over the last 100 years has been the party of government for the overwhelming majority of the time. It's dragging it into the gutter.
And there are those, such as Lee Anderson, who have been kicked out and may even join the Reform Party, a right-wing challenger party polling at about 10%. It's clear then that while Sunak is trying to please everyone in the party, he frequently appears to please no one. The task of holding the party together is getting increasingly tricky and is made only worse as we edge closer and closer to an election the Tories look guaranteed to lose. Clearly, the current state of the world is being plagued by uncertainty and risk, and while you've been watching this video about the Conservative Party, your personal information might have been sold or published online without you even knowing it. Even whilst recording videos, we're interrupted by robocalls, and if you're wondering why you also might be getting random numbers calling your phone, well, the answer is the malevolent workings of shady forces called data brokers. These data brokers can collect and sell your personal information to anyone, from a company to an online criminal. This data can include your name and aliases, social security number, login credentials, home address, location, history, online activity, and much more. But even if you're not fussed about a call here and there, one day it could be a little call, but the next a huge loan could be taken out under your name. So if you want to protect your data, Incogni is here to help. Incogni reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data removal, and deals with any objections from their side. Since many data brokers continue collecting your personal information even after they've removed it, Incogni also takes care that your data stays off the market by conducting repeated removal requests. So create an account with our link in the description, grant Incogni the ability to work on your behalf, and sit back as they make you safer. Plus, by using our link, you'll get an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan. Thanks for checking it out, and thanks to Incogni for supporting this video.